The Cassius Morris Show is sponsored by Audible. Click the link in the description below to get a free audiobook download directly to your tablet, iPhone, iPod Touch, or computer, absolutely free of charge.
So welcome to the machine, and then one day you find 10 years of God.
Joined by Damian Darlington from Brit Floyd. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on again. Really appreciate you taking the time. I just want to start right off talking about the current tour you guys are on, the Immersion World Tour. How do you guys keep it fresh when you're going from tour to tour? As I mentioned, I saw you guys last time and it was great. How do you top yourself?
Well, we just have to, delve into the Pink Floyd catalogue, bringing some new songs into the set that perhaps we haven't done before or haven't done in a long time. Perhaps do some different versions, maybe a live version rather than a studio version, things like that. And it's just the art of arranging the songs in a set list that flows correctly and has the sort of the correct emotional journey through it. So all these sort of little ways of putting a set list together keep it fresh, hopefully, and keep it exciting from year to year.
Absolutely. And you've been doing this for such a long time. Is that what keeps it exciting, just constantly changing things?
Well, that, but plus it never stops being exciting getting out there on stage and playing in front of an audience and travelling the world doing it in the process. So that's all these things keep it exciting. Plus, reinventing the show in certain ways, redoing the light show, improving that, investing in it, bringing more lasers and lights and inflatables and new video, all these sort of things keep it fresh and interesting.
Yeah, and with the amount of care you guys put into doing this properly, who do you see as your biggest competition in the space, if any? Because I feel like you guys are really dominating it.
There are a couple of other Floyd tribute bands out there that are sort of touring internationally. Well, I suppose there's only one other one that tours internationally, and that's the Australian Pink Floyd show, which I used to be in for 17 years before I started Brit Floyd.
Just a little while, right?
Yeah, just a couple of years. But there's one or two other ones that sort of tour around North America on a reasonably large scale. So I suppose if you want to look at it in competition terms, perhaps they are the competition.
Right.
But I don't think that none of them are touring as extensively as we are. And going to the sort of range of countries around the globe that we're going to as well.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned the Australian Pink Floyd show. 17 years is a huge chunk of time. What was your decision to move away from that and form Brit Floyd, and what can you do now that you couldn't really do then with the project?
As 17 years is quite a long time. I'd come to the conclusion that I wanted to sort of like move on, carry on doing Pink Floyd, but hopefully do it better, do a better job of recreating this music and recreating the show that goes along with it, and just get the chance to work with some different musicians as well. So I started Brit Floyd back at the end of 2010. We did our first show in 2011, and I really feel that we've sort of taken things a step further and in recreating that Pink Floyd experience for people.
Couple of Facebook questions for you. This comes from a guy named Izzy Rock, and he wants to know if you had a time machine and you could go back and see one classic rock show, what would it be?
Well, I suppose with sticking with Pink Floyd, I think I would have liked to have seen the original Wall tour, something at Earl's Court in London, when they were touring it in 1980, 81, around about that time. I definitely would have liked to have had the chance to be there. I was a little young. I was only about 11 or 12 years old at the time, so I wasn't quite going to rock concerts about at that point.
Christina Acosta wants to know, how difficult is it, even at this stage, to nail those Gilmore Solos?
It never gets easy. He's an amazing guitar player. He's not necessarily the most technical guitar player in the world. He's not like an Yngwie Malmsteen or a Joe Satriani or something like that, but he has the most amazing feel.
It's about feel,
and choice in melody as well in his solos. So that's it's not just about learning the notes, it's learning the way you should play those notes as well. So that's what it's all about with David Gilmour, and also recreating his guitar sounds as well. He was such a master at producing great guitar tones on the albums over the years, and he changed his guitar tones as well. All these ingredients make it a challenge to recreate his guitar parts all the time.
Definitely. And that being said, what would you say is the single most difficult one that you guys have tackled?
Solo or track?
I guess we could say solo.
I mean, comfortably numb. The guitar solo in that is not an easy solo to sort of recreate note for note. But you know, and I'm the lucky one who gets to play it though, night after night. There are, I suppose, something like Dogs. You know, I mean, it's the other guitar player in the band, Ido Scordu, who gets the job of playing those solos. But that's probably when Gilmore was at his most technical. Some of the guitar work he did on the album,
Right.
on the Animals album. So
Absolutely. That's my favorite Floyd record. Can I ask you what your favorite era of the band is?
I suppose going back to my answer about which concert I would have liked to have seen, it's The Wall,
The Wall.
really. I mean, that was the first Pink Floyd album I heard when I was about 13 years old, so that was my introduction to Pink Floyd, and it sort of remained with me as my favourite Floyd album.
Did you ever see yourself doing this down the line?
No. I mean, when I was starting to be a musician, starting to play guitar, there wasn't such a thing as a tribute band back then, you know, so we didn't really have the notion of doing that. It was only I sort of became aware of the idea of that in the early 90s, and I had the opportunity came my way to join the Australian Pink Floyd show in 1994, but it was not something I sort of had the idea of doing. It was a chance opportunity that came my way.
Very cool. I love it. Have you met any of the Pink Floyd band members, and if so, what was their reaction to what you're doing?
Well, right back at the beginning of doing this, back in '94, David Gilmour came along to a show, came backstage after the concert and had a beer with us, and I subsequently went along to... They played a run of shows at Earl's Court in London at the end of the Division Bell tour, which is what was filmed for the Pulse concert DVD.
Right.
And got to go along and go backstage at the end of World Tour Party. Met Nick Mason and Rick Wright, and then a couple of years later I also got to play David Gilmour's 50th birthday party.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience, and got to play on stage with Rick Wright, playing comfortably on that occasion. So I've met most of Pink Floyd. Not met Roger Waters. He's the one that's gotten away so far.
You must have seen him at a certain point.
Yeah, certainly. I've seen him a few of his, you know, when he toured Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall. I also was lucky enough to be at the Live Aid concert when he reunited with the rest of Pink Floyd for that one performance.
2003, correct?
2005, that was.
Pretty close. And I'm wondering, when David Gilmour or Roger Waters goes on a solo tour, and then you guys kind of come through the area shortly after, does that do good things for your ticket sales, or I'm curious?
I think anything that sort of keeps Pink Floyd in the public mind is a good thing, you know, for the music in general and for ourselves. It just makes people aware of that this music is still out there, and I'm always personally very happy that the original guys are still touring, you know, and long may it continue as far as I'm concerned.
Who are some of your other favourite groups other than Pink Floyd?
I've got a quite diverse taste in music. I mean, there are certain bands that you could maybe put in the same sort of bracket as Pink Floyd, like Yes and Genesis and King Crimson, bands like that. I'm more on the prog side, I think, and Rush, of course.
Yes.
Very, very big fan of Rush. I spent a lot of time learning how to play Alex Lifeson guitar parts when I was a teenager.
Very cool.
But also some of the sort of jazz fusion guitar players like Al Di Meola and John McLaughlin and Pat Metheny, people like that. I'm big fans of their music. And 80s bands like Tears for Fears, you know, I was sort of growing up as a teenager when they were around, and still love bands like that to this day. And artists like Joni Mitchell and Ricky Lee Jones and Tori Amos, some of the sort of female singer-songwriters, people like that.
Nice, very eclectic palette. Well, I love it. Damian, I thank you so much for taking the time again. We really appreciate it, and have a great show tonight.
Thank you very much. Pleasure talking to you.